Hi, Jeff from the Nurture Nature Center, and I come to you today from C.K. Williams Quarry, which is along Route 611, just outside of Easton. Now this is no longer an active quarry. There's nobody extracting minerals here anymore. But up until the 1940s, there were people that were extracting serpentine from the rocks behind me, and tremolite. These are interesting minerals that can be used. The tremolite is valuable in paper manufacturing, apparently. It's an ingredient they use to make, while turning wood into pulp, apparently. And you can also find serpentine here. Serpentine is a building stone. You can use this to make floors and walls, and it's really quite beautiful. If you want to see how beautiful this is in a building, just go to the Easton Post Office, because the Easton Post Office's floors are made of serpentine that was quarried right here where I'm standing. So you can see what this stuff looks like. You can also find Eastonite here. Eastonite is a mineral that is a mix of serpentine and mica, which are what these crystals are here, these shiny bits right here that kind of look like glitter. That's mica. Oh, here's a piece that fell off. Very shiny piece of mica. Kind of looks like a scale. And that's just the beginning. You can find fool's gold here, also known as pyrite. You can find dolomite here. You can find calcite. You can find zircons here. You can find graphite. You can find hematite and limonite. Those are both iron-bearing minerals, those last two I mentioned. And you can find some radioactive minerals. Minerals that are radioactive because they have radioactive elements in them. Elements like uranium and thorium. And the two big ones that you'll find at this quarry are thoronite and uranite. Thoronite has a lot of thorium in it. Its radioactivity comes from thorium. And the uranite's radioactivity comes from the presence of uranium. So radioactivity is just a form of energy. In some cases, it's fast-moving electrons, and that's actually beta radiation. Some forms of radiation are alpha radiation, and that's just fast-moving helium nuclei. And some forms of radiation are a form of light, actually, high-energy photons. This would include gamma radiation and X-rays. And it's very similar to the light that comes out of a light bulb or a radio tower, except that light bulbs and radio towers don't emit high-energy radiation. They emit a lower-energy radiation that's not harmful to you. But high-energy X-rays and gamma rays are quite harmful, along with alpha particles, alpha radiation, and beta radiation. And this is because these forms of radiation are ionizing radiation. And ionizing radiation has the ability to disrupt chemical bonds. That's why it's dangerous for living things, because a living thing is a complex mixture of chemical bonds, and if you disrupt them, bad things can happen. So for example, radiation might disrupt the chemical bonds that make up my DNA, and this can lead to a mutation, and that can lead to cancer. The good news is that our bodies have repair mechanisms, and we can tolerate low amounts of ionizing radiation. And it's a good thing, because we're exposed to radiation all the time. You are being exposed to radiation right now as you watch this video. I don't know how much, probably not very much, but you're being exposed to some. There's a certain level of background radiation that we're exposed to all the time because we live on a radioactive planet in a radioactive universe. You cannot avoid radioactivity completely. Radioactivity is naturally present in the environment around us. It comes from naturally occurring radioactive minerals like the ones at this site that I'm standing at. Some radioactivity actually comes from outer space. This is called cosmic, these are called cosmic rays. Now here on the ground, some places in the world, you will find a lot of radioactivity because of nuclear accidents that have occurred. Some of the radioactivity in the environment comes from the testing of nuclear weapons that ended in the 1960s. But a lot of the radioactivity is naturally occurring from the minerals like the ones that are at this site behind me. Now, radioactivity cannot be smelled, it cannot be seen, it cannot be tasted or touched. but we can detect it, and we can measure its presence with certain machines, such as the one right over there, that yellow thing right there, which is a Geiger counter. Let's take a closer look at it. Okay, so this is my Geiger counter. I'm just going to turn it on right here. Every time you hear a click, that's because a particle, either this Geiger counter cannot measure alpha radiation, so when you hear a click, it means that either a beta particle or an X-ray or a gamma ray is being detected. And this is the probe. This is the part of the Geiger counter that's actually doing the detecting. There's also a view screen right here, a needle, and when that needle moves, it tells me that I'm detecting radioactivity, and it actually can give me an average of the radioactivity. So that CM stands for counts per minute. So right now we're seeing, I don't know, about 25 counts per minute. That's the background radiation in this place, in this site, which is a little on the high side, honestly. The first thing I want to show you is how radioactive a banana is. Believe it or not, bananas are mildly radioactive. I'm going to bring my probe near the banana, and you might not notice a change because bananas are only slightly more radioactive than the background radiation in most places. But bananas have a lot of potassium in them, and there is a fairly common radioactive form, a radioactive isotope of potassium that's found around the world, and bananas, being rich in potassium, have some of this radioactive form of potassium in them. The first thing I want to show you is this this cup, which is an example of depression glass, which has uranium in it. And if I bring the probe near it, you can tell that the number of clicks is going up. The radiation is a little bit higher. It's about 50 counts per minute on average. So the most radioactive thing in your home is probably your smoke detector. Inside of most smoke detectors there is a small amount of americium, and I do mean small. So we have a cork here, and sitting on top of that cork is a piece of aluminum, and inside of that piece of aluminum is a small sliver of americium, which is very radioactive. If I bring the probe near it, you can see that that tiny amount of americium is giving off a pretty high level of radioactivity, about 200 counts per minute. You shouldn't worry about this, though. Even this level of radioactivity is not much to worry about, and you really only detect it when you're within a few inches of, and it's important that you have a working smoke detector in your home because it can save your life in the event of a fire. Just take the Geiger counter and walk right over here, and we're going to measure the radioactivity coming off of these rocks. And I'm going to take this probe, and I'm going to just move it along these rocks. This one doesn't seem to be particularly radioactive. Let's try this one over here. Oh. You can hear that. This is actually fairly radioactive. If we go over to the needle, we can see this is over 100 counts per minute. This is fairly radioactive. This is a naturally occurring rock that you'll find here in Easton. And this is the reason why some people in our area have a real problem with radon in their basements. It's because there are naturally occurring radioactive minerals in the ground here. These radioactive minerals go through a decay chain. So we start with uranium, but the uranium decays and becomes thorium, and eventually the thorium can decay into lighter and lighter elements that are still radioactive. There's a whole decay chain, and one of the elements in this decay chain is radon. Now, radon is a gas, and when radon gas is produced, it can actually migrate through the soil. It can move up and eventually collect in low-lying spaces inside your home. If you have a basement that's not well ventilated and has, and if it's possible for gas to get out of the ground and into your basement, then you might have a radon problem in your home. And it's a good idea to, have your home checked to see if there is radon building up in your home. All right, that's it. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next week.